Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm super happy to announce that I'm feeling a lot better. I can breathe through my nose now, but my voice is still injured from the 2 days of severe coughing, so I'm still taking it easy. But we have some news in regards to the profession update for August 2nd, so I thought, what better thing to do than go over it and give my reaction and feedback to these changes, because they are a little bit early. Right, we're here on the official Guild Wars 2 forums, and we're really going to hit the changes that they have shared with us today. They start off by saying, in our Profession Balance Next Steps post on June 30th, we stated that we'd be making some additional adjustments to Mesmer weapons, traits, and warrior banners in the August 2nd update. Below, you'll find these changes. FYI, we've also added an additional balance update to our release schedule for August 23rd, focused on buffing a large set of specializations. We'll have more information on what that build includes in the coming weeks. Thank you for your continued patience and support as we address your feedback from the June 28th Profession update. Now, I actually didn't read that when I first looked at this page, but August 23rd focused on buffing a large set of specializations. Now, they say specializations, so is that just the core specs, or is that also elite specializations? Because once again, I'm a huge advocate for more ally targeting abilities to interact with support weapons and support spells and abilities. I think it's a fun playstyle. It allows you to focus on particular targets and feel like you're actually doing something. So I don't know if that is included or if we'll see a more dedicated patch about that down the line. Hopefully. But yeah, good thing to note for August 23rd. So they give some context saying, similar to recent tuning on ranger weapons, the following are a small set of changes focused on improving damage capabilities of Chronomancer builds in PvE. Improvements to Greatsword and Sword, as well as significant damage increase added to the Chronomancer's improved Alacrity trait, will increase the performance of both damage and boon support Chronomancer builds. So for the Greatsword Spatial Search, it's auto attack. It's increased the minimum damage multiplier a little bit and increased the maximum damage multiplier to 1.1, meaning that more power you have, the more this ability will be hitting for. Mind Stab has also received a similar treatment by being increased by 0.8, and Phantasmal Berserker has been increased from 0.4 to 1.2, which is a substantial increase. I like to see it. Once again, Greatsword getting more benefit from playing at range. So I wish they kind of put more of that range stuff in the other abilities other than just Spatial Surge. So for Sword, we have Mind Slash, increase the damage, and Mind Gash, increase the damage. I'm pretty sure this is just the auto attack, so the Sword will be receiving a little bit of a buff from their auto attack. Their second ability already is pretty strong. Now for the Chronomancer trait, improved Alacrity, and I think this is very important. In addition to its previous effects, this trait now also increases your critical strike damage by 10% when you have Alacrity. This is a multiplier to total damage dealt, not additive with critical strike damage from Ferocity. So this won't really be interacting with Ferocity, if I'm reading this correctly. I think a lot of the times when you're playing with Alacrity in particular, and you're being that Alacrity Chronomancer, you're not getting that damage output because you might not have quickness, and the other quickness lines, just you could put more damage onto it. So I think Alacrity definitely needed this. Once again, I think that the Boons Alacrity and quickness, I think that they're a little too widely spread out right now for the roles of each elite spec. I think that Alacrity should be tied to healing, and quickness should be tied to more DPS builds. However, when it comes to Chronomancer, I think one of the spec's flavors and one of the identity or identifiable factors about Chronomancer is that it could provide both. Now, I would really like to see a little bit of the quickness and a little bit of the Alacrity return to the Wells, and when you then go through the trait lines specializing in either Alacrity or quickness, those particular Wells would either be increased or reduced in overall duration. I still think Chronomancer could receive a little bit of quickness with its Alacrity builds, and similarly, if you have a quickness build, you could get a little bit of Alacrity. Once again, you have Time Warp to consider, so Time Warp is already an application of quickness if you want to go for that. So next we're going over to Warrior. Bringing context to this, they say that they have badly missed the mark with banner changes in the June update. We've gone back to the drawing board to be bolder with changes, add more powerful utility, and make banners easier to use. Each banner will now do its most powerful effects immediately on use, and have a much shorter base cooldown of 30 seconds. To address situations where it felt like the warrior needed to continually adjust the positions of their banners, pulsing boons are now granted an increased duration per pulse, but over a shorter amount of time. So there's a lot of changes with banners. Essentially, they are getting a shorter cooldown down to 30 seconds, but their duration is also being shortened to 15 seconds. With the 15 seconds, you're going to get more applications of boons in a shorter time frame, but also the radius is being shrunk to 360, which is a pretty large radius. And I kind of agree. I think 360 is perfectly fine. It's making banners a little bit differentiated between spirits, which I think is important and cool. So yeah, I agree. And the combo field for the light has been reduced to 3 seconds. I don't know why they have light combo fields. If anything, probably like fire fields. I don't know why light. Anyways, banners no longer grant quickness when they drop by default, except for the banner of tactics in PvE only, which I agree with. I think that they should have a banner that is applying quickness to where you're not having to trade for it. But the double standards trait. This trait now grants quickness on banner drops in addition to its other effects. It's clarified in the description that boon duration increase only applies to the pulsing boons and not any other boons granted on the initial banner drop. Now, I really wonder the length of quickness for this. I wonder if it's going to be like 4 or 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see the duration of quickness. And then as for the banners themselves, Banner of Defense, here's where we're going to kind of get into the particulars about the banners. Banner of Defense grants barrier and Aegis to allies. I'm going to just kind of talk about each one. We're going down. So Banner of Defense. Honestly, I don't like Aegis. I think Aegis is really falling out of the Guild Wars 2 gameplay in PvE scenarios. And I think while you have barrier, Aegis is not needed. I honestly think that a lot of the Aegis application skills could just apply barrier. I find it's a bit more of an interesting gameplay style where you're buffing people's health to shield them rather than just giving them a one, usually shorter duration block where a plethora of things can trigger Aegis. You could be standing around and then you'll get pulsed with damage and Aegis will be eaten up. Or, conversely, you might expect Aegis to be used when you're gonna get a direct hit. But now, some bosses with their direct hits, from their shockwaves to their swipes, they'll go through the Aegis. So not only does Aegis feel like it's kind of falling out and is a little boring of a boon and overall playstyle, but the actual interactions with the gameplay seem to be neglecting Aegis and just overriding it, because you know that Aegis is so strong because it is a direct block of an attack in all of its effects. So I really dislike Aegis, and I think that even like as we go forward, we'll see more attacks just really cut through Aegis. So Aegis at this point feels kind of useless in some scenarios, but especially in competitive modes, Aegis can be pretty strong. But once again, you're getting procced by a million things. It's kind of hard to really, unless you're in a 1v1 scenario. So I genuinely believe that it should just be barrier and like vigor, if anything. I think Aegis is really needed. And convert. In the same breath, I think Guardian doesn't need Aegis as much. Just put more direct barrier and blocks. Nevertheless, Banner of Tactics applies stability and super speed to allies. This is interesting. And quickness in PvE only. Okay, yeah, so that's where the quickness comes into play. I wouldn't put the quickness on this one. Woo? I would not put the quickness on this banner. I think that the Tactics banner is a bit more bruisery, a bit more tanky. I would put stability, super speed, and resistance on this instead. A Banner of Discipline damages and applies bleeding and cripple. This skill no longer creates a combo light field, but acts as a blast finisher. I would put quickness on discipline. I would put quickness on discipline because I often associate quickness with DPS builds, and I think DPS builds get the most benefit out of quickness because you're able to use your attack abilities much faster. Alacrity tends to be a bit like, in my mind, a bit better for supports, but nevertheless, I would put quickness on this, not on tactics. I don't think it's needed. Tactics would get a little bit bloated, and you'd get so much stability where you don't really need. This will be the go-to one. So yeah, I would rather see it on discipline. Banner of Strength damages and dazes enemies. The skill no longer creates a light field, but acts as a blast finisher instead. Okay, we're gonna get a little bit of a daze on a banner. which is interesting. And yeah, battle standard damage multiplier has been increased in PvE only, and this skill no longer creates a light combo field but acts as a blast finisher. I don't know why light. I think they should just go with the fire fields. I think that makes the most sense for warrior, might sharing, fire auras, berserkers. I think that'd probably be a lot better than light fields. And then as for the boons, Banner of Defense is granting regen. Okay, so that does grant regen. I don't think the Aegis is needed then. I think it could just grant barrier. That's what I would personally do. Banner. Or if it's more of your supportive banner, give it like a second of alacrity. Ooh, that would be spicy. Because I don't think alacrity and quickness need to be shunned. I think we could have worlds where we have shorter duration of alacrity and quickness, but is a bit more plentiful and you can like pop it out more often. Not 100% uptime, but yeah. Banner of Tactics is resistance. Okay, that makes sense. Banner, okay, so that is where the resistance comes into play. Then I don't really think super speed is needed. I think there's just so much super speed and it's so strong. Super speed is so strong, and I just feel like we're gonna get into worlds where like everyone's gonna have literally everything, and it's gonna be like, oh well, I don't know. I don't think you need the super speed. Nevertheless, Banner of Discipline is Fury. That makes sense. Banner of Strength, Might, 10-second 2 stacks. I would put Discipline, Might, and Strength Fury. That's what I would do. Damage and Daze. Damage and bleed, I feel like you get more use out of the might for that. And yeah, I wouldn't put the daze and the might together. I would much rather put the fury, but that's just me. Battle standard, fury application, swiftness, and might. Okay, yeah, and I think because like battle standard, you have the super speed and you have the swiftness on battle standard. You don't need the super speed. I don't know. I like these changes more. I just don't think they needed to go. Like, some of these changes I think are just superfluous. It's more so just we're tacking something on to tack it on to really be like, oh, we made banners better. But like, I think the power of a nerf, the concept of a nerf when it comes to ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2's balance is so powerful, is so important. I feel like we're in this world where we're always looking for buffs, but in the same vein, I think there is a mastery to a nerf. Granted, I think the banner changes previously were definitely a nerf and just like objectively bad, but I think there can be positive nerfs. And yeah, I don't think you needed to go as grand with some of these. Like, defense doesn't need the Aegis. Give it more barrier in compensation for a lack of Aegis. Tactics don't really need the super speed, honestly. Just pulse a stability for 5 seconds to allies. Discipline, I would put this banner with quickness. Strength, that's totally fine, but I would leave that one for the Fury, and you know, everything else is like kind of chill. Well, everyone, those are the balance changes coming with the August 2nd. Once again, I really hope for some more like direct support healing playstyle love, because as a support main and a healer main, I feel like our gameplay styles have lingered and remained the same for like 6 years, and with the introduction to ally targeting, I'm like, that's your opportunity to really spice things up and really bring some more balance. Like Ventari tablet AoE healing 5 targets is hitting 9,000 heals on a spammable 8th skill, or wherever you want to put it on your Ventari utility bar. It's a little wild. And Spectre's over here just like dinking people for 600 barrier. It doesn't make any sense to me. I really hope that we see more with these balance changes in the future. And I think that these changes are a start. Once again, some of these things I'm like, really? Aegis isn't needed. Super speed isn't needed either. But yeah, I think it's always important to keep a critical mind, an active critical mind. Even if you are, like myself, a Guardian player, Guardian lover, I have to take a step back and go like, is that change needed? Did it need all those things added to it to buff it? Did it just need a cast time reduction? Did it need a cooldown reduction? You have to think about these things, not just like, we're going to add 15 effects on one button press, which is kind of what it feels like we're going into, and I don't really think that makes for a fun gameplay style that we've grown to love with Guild Wars 2. So yeah, thank you all for coming on by. Leave your comments down below how you feel about these changes, both Chronomancer, Mesmer in general, and Warrior in general, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Like the video, like it, comment down below, subscribe for more Guild Wars 2 content, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can head over to Patreon and get early access to all my videos. Multiple videos are coming out, And you can catch me on Twitch. And if you'd like to order Guild Wars 2 or try for free, I have links below, courtesy of ArenaNet. And I'll see you all later. Bye, everyone!